What's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of Unscripted. Listen, it's Tuesday night. You know what that means. I have some of the biggest, the baddest, the best wrestlers of today and yesteryear. And this night is no different. This night is really, really no different, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing. I've been doing this thing for a very long time now. Over a decade, I've interviewed over 300 people. I think I'm at like 17 WWE Hall of Famers now. All right. So here's the thing. There's something about, I've interviewed so many people, current stars, but I am a sucker for interviewing veterans in the business because I love me some good old popcorn road stories, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure this person has a wealth of them. Why? Because he's been in the business for counted nearly 55 years. Ladies and gentlemen, you might call him a stooge, but I call him a legend. WWE Hall of Famer, Gerald Brisco. How are you tonight, my man?
I'm wonderful, Dr. Chris. Thanks for the wonderful introduction there. You know, it just means I've been around for a long time. I'm blessed. You know, I've been 5-6 decades now in this business, you know, since the mid-60s. You know, I come up during a really great time in the industry. It was a time where a lot of the legendary, legends that you'd think of legends, you know, weren't even around there, but legends like the great Gene Kiniski, you know, the Jack Pfeffers, the Wild Red Berries, the Gorgeous Georges, all those guys were just getting out of the business. And I had the pleasure of meeting Ed Strangler Lewis, you know. Yeah. I mean, wow, Ed Strangler Lewis, that's a historical name. I had the honor of meeting him in a facility in southern Oklahoma with the great late Danny Hodge also. So, you know, then coming through the Jack Brisco, the Dory Funks, the Terry Funk era, the Dusty Rhodes, the Ric Flair, and all the way through the Stone Cold, the Rock, and Roman Reigns. I mean, you know, that's a plethora of stars that, you know, that, wow, who else has seen that many?
That's a really good point, man. Well, we know one person who has, and that's you. You've seen it all, man, in the time that you've been there. You mentioned some really, really legendary names. Danny Hodge, I believe that's Jim Ross's favorite wrestler. He mentions Danny Hodge quite a bit. I w- Before my time, but I'm a little bit of a wrestling historian. I'm familiar with Strangler Lewis. I'm familiar with Gene Kiniski. I'm familiar with, of course, Danny Hodge. Red Berry. You mentioned some names. I say, you know what? Hey, before my time, but I'm familiar with them because I've watched some old flicks, and so it's good to see you being one of those people and you still going strong, man. Listen, I won't be surprised if I see a Gerald Brisco pop up trying to go for that 24/7 championship. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, I've been there one
You
time.
have.
I was hardcore,
That's right. Two-time
two-time
hardcore champion.
hardcore champion.
That's
Not
right.
hardcore champion, but two-time hardcore. Hell with Booker T in that 5-time. I was two-time hardcore champion.
That's right, man. That's right. And you lost to Kelly, right, for the 24/7 championship.
Dr. Chris, now you're a psychologist. Come on now. I'm an old man, and you have a nice looking young lady come up to you and says, "I'm gonna knee you in the groins. You go down, and I'll get on top of you and cover you." What are you gonna do, and how fast are you gonna get down there?
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
And
That's a
I
good
went
point.
down.
Awesome,
That's the
man.
greatest defeat I think I ever had.
Indeed, it was the most exquisite, probably the most pleasurable. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
it's melt the best, I'll tell you
Yes, yes, indeed.
that.
You ready to dive into these
When
questions?
you have that old sweaty Terry Funk land on you compared to Kelly Kelly, I mean, which is going to smell better? I mean,
Uh, I think that's a pretty easy choice. Pretty easy
yeah.
choice there. All right, man. You ready to dive into these questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Guillermo's asking, how did the idea of you getting involved in a hardcore division was born, and your opinion on your hardcore evening gown match?
Oh man, great memory and bad memory. Great memory. How the thought process behind. We were in Detroit, and Crash Holly just needed a little break. From that was a pretty hectic schedule we kept back in there,
Wow.
and hardcore where anything goes. You got beat up a lot, whether you
Mhm.
wanted to or not. You got beat up a lot,
Yep.
even though we're rehearsing all that stuff. That stuff still hurts, man. When
Mhm.
you bend a pan over your head, I mean, it hurts.
Yep.
And so the thought was, Pat and I and Sard was in the running too, Sard the Slaughter. I mean, we're all three Stooges at the time. And so Sarge was too valuable to the company as a commissioner, and as a talent who could go in and help elevate somebody to the next level. So he was put out. Pat didn't want to take all the bumps and all that stuff, so that left one stooge left, and that was me. So that's basically how the thought process of me going through was the process of elimination.
Yeah.
And so I got it, but the evening gown match, I mean, I like to tell this story. I've told it a million times, but I'll tell it again. Vince McMahon used to teach us how to say McMahon to get in there, get on my friend Mr. McMahon. He used to teach us how to write TV. You write TV as if it's the first viewer each night that you put something on paper. It's the first time you're getting somebody to view. So I'm gonna tell the story again.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting in the locker room getting dressed. There's Undertaker over there, Shawn Michaels over there. There's Jim Ross over there. There's a lot of it was the kind of the executive dressing room. And a lot of the top talent came in and dressed in there because it was a bigger dressing room. So Hunter's sitting next to me, Triple H is sitting right next to me, and I'm putting on all that. I got a newfound respect for women getting dressed now. I mean, really, I mean, you got to put on all that stuff. Us men, we got it made. We just slip our damn pants on, slip an old smelly t-shirt on. We're ready to go,
The
right?
Briscoe Butters Auto Shop shirt
Oh,
on.
you
You're good to
got it.
go.
You got it. That's all we got to do. So us men, we got it made. Women, man, they got to put all that stuff on you. That stuff sticks on you. You got to adjust it and all that stuff. It's a pain in the butt. But I had to ask asked Triple H. I looked over at him. I was almost dressed, sir. I looked over and I said, Paul, I'm going to ask you something I thought I'd never have to ask a man to do. And he looked at me and he said, what's that? And Undertaker looks up and they're all looking at me. I said, would you fasten my bra? He said, it'd be an honor. So Triple H passed my bra, then he helped me stuff cotton in each breast so I'd be balanced out. He said, you got to be balanced. You don't want to look awkward, So he balanced me all out. So a lot of thank yous go to Triple H for helping my breast look so wonderful and luscious that night. So
very nice, very nice.
And so the match had left something to be desired because you had two men out there that was handicapped in high heels, and I don't know how to walk around in high heels. So it was one of those things that it was fun while it lasted. And I think our good friend, one of those dirt sheet guys, said it was the worst match of the year. Hey man, at least it was a match.
That's right.
At least I got to be there. At least I was on King of the Ring. So
absolutely.
It might not have been in all my it wasn't all my glory. So
yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't one of my most favorite memories that I possessed about the wrestling business. But you know what? It was a fun memory anyway. Yeah. We're still talking about it today.
That's right. Absolutely. Guillermo's asking, how was working with your brother Jack? And congratulations on being recognized by WWE as one of the best tag teams.
Well, I appreciate WWE for doing that. And working with my brother is probably the proudest moment that I can recall. I mean, when us winning a tag team championship from Ricky Steamboat Jay Youngblood, Youngboat as I like to call him, was a real thrill for both of us. Both of us went down the sand. It was probably one of the highlights of our career. To win the World Tag Team belt. And the great thing about working with Ricky and Jay, they were the new kids on the block, so to say. We were the veterans. But there had been one time thing, Jack and I held every belt you could possibly hold, a heavyweight championship of the world, junior heavyweight championship of the world. But we'd never a North American tag team. We'd never held a world tag team championship together, So we said, why not? So we turned bad guys on Ricky and Jay, and it turned out to be one of the hottest angle programs that Mid-Atlantic had ever had. So
led to a Starrcade match, right?
Pardon?
Led to a Starrcade match, right?
Exactly. It led to the first Starrcade. So I'm really proud of that fact. I'm proud of it. So teaming with my brother is really a highlight that I have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Around that time, of course, you and your brother were owners, share owners of GCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling, right? And I'm interested to know your particular take on Black Saturday, 1984. Now, from your perspective, there's so many things going around as far as you and your brother, and then Paul Jones proxy vote and things like that. What happened from your perspective as far as Black Saturday is concerned?
Well, I'd much rather prefer to it as Green Saturday because it was a pretty healthy paycheck there. But nice. my perspective of it, the sell, I thought the sell was something that you write movie scripts about. It's something nobody expected. It just come out of the blue. And for those days and time, or any days and times in professional wrestling, to keep something under wraps for that long of a period, because it wasn't an easy negotiation with everybody. I mean, you had all these different factions threatening suits and stopping you in the middle of things like that. But we were able to keep it under wraps and pursuing Paul Jones. Getting Paul Jones' proxy was something that made the deal go. Without him, I mean, we even with Barnett's partner Jim Oates up in Chicago, and mine and my brothers, we still didn't have the necessary 51% to put us over the hump. And so we had to have it. Was kind of a battle on, okay, who's going to get Paul Jones' proxy? Well, nobody knew the sale was coming because we kept it under the wraps. We did, Dr. Chris, do the right thing in the NWA. We went around. We offered Jim Crockett. We offered some of Jim Crockett's associates, the Murnicks. We offered Bill Watts. We offered a lot of Eddie Graham. We offered a lot of NWA people the rights first. Doing or trying to do the right thing. And every time we did it, it got shot down by a partner, by an associate of Georgia Championship Wrestling. So we finally made the right phone call, and they accepted our terms and conditions, and we made the sale.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, it benefited you because you became an agent for WWE.
It benefited everybody because without that sale, there'd never been Monday Night Wars. There'd never been WrestleMania. There'd never been a lot of things because of that sale. I mean, so it not only benefited the Brisco family, it benefited all of us wrestling fans out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really the seed planted for the first type of promotional war, with GCW and WWE and WWE, buying the rights and things like that. So really interesting kind of predecessor, to what we saw, back in the mid 90s, at the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, which once again, guess who the common denominator was? Gerald Brisco. He was there still at the Monday Night
I was
there. Burrito's asking, what was it like working in Puerto Rico for World Wrestling Council? And do you believe the AEW is a major threat to WWE, or do you think it's no competition at all?
Well, the first part of that question, I mean, it brings back so many lovely memories and so many fantastic memories. I love the island of Puerto Rico. I love the city of San Juan.
Been there once.
Been there once. You got to take the time, Dr. Chris, and go down there and enjoy the entire island. And that's one great thing about wrestling. And Carlos Colon did such a great job down there promoting. We would come down, we'd hit like a 3-city tour.
Mm-hmm.
And each time we go down, it was like you're hitting a different city. So we got to discover the entire island. But I love San Juan, the beaches there, the nightlife there was just as good as it could get. And Carlos took care of you, and we'd sell out that Roberto Clemente Coliseum, Mayamon, both of them 12, 15,000 people. And the atmosphere was electric each night that we were there. It's a wonderful place, and I told my wife I wouldn't mind going back down there on vacation just to revisit the island. They've had several natural disasters there in the last few years, so I'm sure access to some of those places I went is not available now. But man, what a beautiful island! And I was blessed to have the opportunity to go down there and visit all those Caribbean islands. All the people down there are such wonderful people, such devoted fans. And when they get to meet you down there, they can tell you so much about your career that you never knew. And I was like I said, I was just totally blessed with. I mean, from Curacao, Tobago, all those St. Martin, all the Virgin Islands, Aruba, all those islands down there. I got to visit and work and meet, and most of all, meet the people of the islands and understand the new culture. And that's what my career, I'm so proud. I visit all these different countries and everything, and I enjoy getting to know the people. And that's the great thing about our business.
Very nice.
The second part of it is AEW. And they'll get on me if I don't answer that. They'll say, well, doing this and he's doing that. But you know what? I don't look at them like I look at WCW because they were, Eric Bischoff, he said it so eloquently. I can't repeat what he said because he said, I don't want distract from anything he said. But do yourself a favor, go on Twitter and look up what Eric Bischoff said.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with him 100%. Do I agree there's a lot of talented kids over there? Oh, man, there's some great talented kids over there. Great talent, man. And nothing gets the talent, man. The kids are doing what they got to do. And I love wrestling. I love every form of wrestling. I'm a wrestling junkie. You know, I'm just like everybody out there listening to this damn podcast. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast unless you're a wrestling junkie.
Indeed.
That's what I am. That's where I get my adrenaline from at 75 years old.
Love it.
Watch this. Do they go too damn fast? Hell yes. Heck yeah. I'm sorry. I said heck. My mama would slap me up the side of the head. She heard me say that. Something like that in public, no less. But
in public, if you will.
Yeah, public, if you will. My buddy, brother Dream there. But I love the talent over there. I love the talent at the independent shows. My son is one of the top independent guys around, and I go to some of his shows, and I see some of these kids. You know, they're out there one night a week, and they're busting their behinds. And they're giving it everything. They're giving it just like we would give it at Madison Square Garden. But they're in front of 2,500 people, 250 people. So I say this every chance I get: support the local independent wrestling. They're your territories. They're the territories of the day as your independent wrestling. People are like, what happened to when the territories ever come back? Yeah. There's several independent wrestling organizations out there that cover this entire United States of America, this great country that we live in. So find one locally in your area. Go see a couple of shows. Who knows? You might see the next John Cena.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of locally, I'm good friends with, of course, people know the legendary Bobby Fulton. He has a lot of shows here in Ohio.
Right.
Well, he had
great shows.
He's recovering from illness. So yeah, he Chillicothe area, and usually within an hour and a half drive of where I stay. And I'd go and support my buddy Bobby Fulton when he would have shows here a few years back, man. So, I mean, I saw some really good talent there, too, when he would have his shows in Ohio, too.
And
so
the Fulton cool. Train those people like they're supposed to be. They
Correct.
Train them the old school way, like when Charlie and I was in the business.
Yep, absolutely, yep. Derek's asking, what were your memories of working with Tony Garea during the Attitude Era?
One of the cheapest guys I've ever traveled the road with. All the stories you hear about Tony Garea being cheap are true. None of them are false. None of them are even close to being false. Some of the only falsity in those stories, they didn't really tell how cheap he really is. Nice. Dr. Chris, I met Tony Garea in 1970 or 1971 in Auckland, New Zealand. He was just starting. He was a young rugby superstar over there. I mean, walking downtown in Auckland, New Zealand with Tony Garea was like walking into Vegas with Elvis Presley. Tony had that thick, wavy hair, and I still hate him. And my mama told me, too, that hate's a strong word, but all that hair that Tony Garea had. Have you ever seen a man his age? He got to be 116 years old, but he's got the hair of I don't know what DNA he stole it from, but it can't be natural, man. But it's all Tony. I love Tony Garea to death. I love Ribbity. He and I share the same damn birthday. Same birthday, Dr. Chris. He was born in New Zealand. I was born in Oklahoma. We figured out the time difference in time zones and all that stuff. And he's older than me.
Yeah. He's I think he's 75 too, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean. We had to look at September 19th, September 20th, but we figured out the time difference. And my time I was born and the time he was born actually coincided with the stars in the universe out there. Wow. So we were born at the same time.
Interesting.
It's our story. We're sticking to it.
And you're sticking to it. Absolutely. Are you still running a car business? How's Rose is asking?
Actually, the most famous body shop in the entire world. We sold it a few years back. You know what? Of course, my brother passing, and my other brother was 86 years old, and at that time I was fortunately employed and working for the WWE. and I was on the road a lot, and it was hard for my brother and the manager, who was up there at his age too. So I got an offer. I got one of those offers that you can't refuse, and I took it. So yeah, it was a sad day after 41 years of owning that business and watching it grow from 3 men to at one time 35 employees here and just a assembly line. It was sad to see it go, but all things come to an end.
Yeah. Speaking of coming to an end, you talked about being let go of WWE last year. What was their rhyme and reason of letting you go, and how was it being an agent in WWE, especially for so long? You were there for what, 35 years?
36 years I was there.
Wow.
Not all the time as a
Agent.
agent. I started my career there as back in those days they had like a local promoters, guys that worked a certain area, put on the local shows for them because they had the department had grown into the armies that they've grown into now. And so I was what they call a local promoter, and I started out just doing Tampa. Pretty soon I had the whole state of Florida. Next thing I know, they can't get into Carolina, but as we talked about before, me being a stockholder in certain companies, when I go to these buildings, whether I was working Jim Crockett's territory, Mid-Atlantic, Bill Watts's, or Georgia, I would always get to know the building manager and get to know them and talk to them. So when WWE first started out, they were having trouble getting into certain markets, especially in the South, the people that were so devoted to a certain brand. Those NWA promoters did a fantastic job during their time promoting a brand. They had no idea they were doing it, but they did. And so when WWE came in, and this building manager sitting there, well, the local guy will give me 50 weeks a year. You're offering me 6 to 8 weeks a year. If you're lucky, you're getting 12 dates a year. Why should I give up those 50 dates a year for a dozen dates a year? And you had to sit there and show them the numbers. Well, what are they drawing? They're drawing 300-400 people. Your building seats 8,000 people because back in those days, the building wasn't 15,000-20,000 people like they are today. So we could put 8,000 people in there 12 times a year compared to 1,500 people 50 times a year. And it cuts down on your expense, and it gives you a better profit margin. So you had to sit there and you had to convince the building managers why they should allow your product in there. So I knew all these building managers, and Vince knew that I had a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
So before long, I was promoting in 9 different states here in the South there, and doing pretty well for myself and enjoying the job.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's
and
really cool.
From there, I went to the backstage because the agents would come down, and at the time we had some agents, and the road trips were pretty bad. So they'd come to Florida, they'd come to my town. They knew I knew those towns, and they knew I knew some finishes that the people in those towns liked. So they let me, the agents on the road were kind of let me kind of figure the matches out for them. And so I was basically doing their job, and like word kind of got back to Vince and hey, Brisco down there, So next thing I know, I'm moving from local promoter up to the office, and I didn't literally move. I just spiritually moved up there, and so I wouldn't physically move out of Florida. I told Vince McMahon he has it all wrong. People in Florida, Connecticut move to Florida. Florida people don't move to Connecticut. So.
Very nice.
And I won that argument, but I never got promoted. I didn't care though. I was still making money. So
yeah, absolutely. As an agent, what is like 1 or 2 matches that you can think of just during your time as an agent that you can think of that you were in charge of?
Well, I can tell you the good and the many bad. But I'll tell you 2 quick good ones. I'll get off of it really quick, and then I'll move to the bad ones and why. And A couple good ones with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart at WrestleMania, I think, 13? And it kind of changed
13.
the course of our direction, for years and years. And I thought that was a good match that I helped produce. And I helped
You were in charge of the double turn?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
nice. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what made you think of the double turn?
Mostly, I'm going to give the credit to the talent because they sit there. We're fortunately, Allstate Arena was right across the street from this shopping center, and we're Harvey Whipperman downtown Bruno was a runner for that show. So Stone Cold looked at Brisco. We've got everything figured in but a kitchen sink. We need a kitchen sink. So Harvey run across. There happened to be a Target across the street, so he ran across the street and got the kitchen sink. Now I'm not sure if we ever got that kitchen sink in it because it was the last plant that we had there. Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting, and but I give all the credit to two of the best talents that ever stepped in a WWE ring, Bret Hart and Stone Cold. And then I put together that cluster that we had out in LA where we had like 15 hardcore champions in a course of 20 minutes, and Bob Holly missed the count on the end of it and ended up hardcore champion by mistake. Yeah. And then I had some really, really bad ones. I had that Junkyard Dog match that was the most horrible match. What I usually do, Dr. Chris, is I was in charge. I got screamed at regardless. So what I did, I always looked at the card, and I saw the card where there'd be the hardest match to put together, where I knew the agent were going to get in trouble. And I would take that job to keep him from getting hollered at because I was in charge of all of them. So I'm going to get hollered at regardless. So I might as well save a guy chewing, and take it myself if I'm going to take one anyway. Mm-hmm. So I took, that junkyard with poor old Ray Traylor, God bless his soul. I had that match, and it was awful. I had the Punjabi match that was considered awful. I took that one because I didn't want the agent getting in trouble, getting hollered at. Because, like I said, I took them every night. So watch one more. So I took a lot of those matches just to cover for my guys.
Wow. Very noble of you, Mr. Brisco. So. All right, man. Well, I'm going to respect your time. Let the listeners know where to find you on social media.
Oh boy! Well, I'm on that Facebook. Gerald Brisco. There's several Brisco forums out there, but I'm Gerald Brisco. It's got me and my wife sitting there on my lake, looking out in my retirement years. It's peaceful seeing me. And then I'm on Facebook. Oh, that is Facebook. Then I'm on Twitter. Help me out here, Dr. Chris.
Was it
the FG or at FG Brisco? Is that it? At FG Brisco, I believe it is. Yep. Then I'm on that what is it? Instagram.
Okay.
And then I'm on an ad-free show on Conrad Thompson's Empire on Billionaire Connie. Tried to put me a JBL out of business, and I'll get to that in a second there. But I got an ad-free show with one of the funniest men in America, Taylor Williamson. I call him Taylor Comedy because he has a goofy blue sign up here on his instead of books and education, he got a goofy sign that says that Taylor Comedy up on his wall there. So I just see Taylor Comedy. But we got a funny show. Taylor's funny, and I give Q&As just like I did here tonight. So it's on that ad-free show network with Billionaire Connie. And then I'm doing a show down, and we like to do things. Dr. Chris, you've talked to me now, and we've corresponded back and forth. I try to stay positive in my life. I'm 75 years, and what have I got to be negative about? I had one of the greatest careers a man could only dream about. A little poor boy from Native American boy from Bowlings, Oklahoma. And so I'm blessed with that. So JBL and I, we started out during when the pandemic was really getting bad and everything. We started out independently, just going on and cutting those. You got to be careful on Twitter. You're going to do 2 minutes. So little 2-minute funny things, telling road stories and like that, just trying to lighten the load and put a smile on people's face. Taylor came up with Brisco's big announcement where I'm going to make a big announcement what I'm going to do in my career. And Randy Orton jumps in through the miracles of electronics, and Mick Foley with Mr. Sacco comes in, and a lot I get my iPhone sold and my battery. A lot of stuff happens, and Taylor come up with a comedic side of that there. So, I learned all this social media. So we started out, like I said, just trying to put smiles on faces. And then, we kind of bored ourselves, and I know we were starting to bore the people. So John called me and he said, "Hey man, why don't we do this stuff together?" And so we come up with stories with Brisco and Bradshaw. And we've had a who's who of guests on there. I mean, from the great Stan Hansen, we've had Medusa on there. We've had all the greats with Von Erichs on there. We had a Freebird reunion on there. Now we're working on a Freebird Von Erich reunion.
Oh, nice.
We got some great stars coming up. We did a unique one today. I won't get into that too, but we did a really good one with David Bixon today, and it was really good. It was about my old pal Pat Patterson. So if you get a chance, check that out. But
very nice.
We did Rikishi last week, and we did that old cheap guy Eric Comeback Bischoff, who uses billionaires' money to try to take little independent guys like me and Bradshaw off the airways. He used billionaire Ted's money. Now he's using billionaire Connie's money. But we're going to end up on the bright side of that, Dr. Chris. You can figure that out. You're a smart man. So, and I'm honored to be on Unscripted here with you, Doc.
My pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure. Interesting fact. In 2017, I interviewed your son, Wes.
Wow. That is 2017.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. 4 years ago. Yep. Cool, man. Well, man, it's been a pleasure having you on my show, man. You have been one of my funnest guests to talk to, and I was just soaking in all the wealth of awesome information that you had as I knew that I was going to do, and you didn't let me down as expected, man. It's been a pleasure you having on my show tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Hope everybody has a pleasant weekend. Go Bucks.
Woo! Come on, man. You speak about language now. Go Bucks. Have a good night, my man.